Hello, I hope everyone is having a good start to 2026. Today I want to look at Alabaster Dawn, the next game from the developers of Crosscode, an action RPG in a similar vein of Secret Mana, albeit a bit more of an advanced version of Secret Mana. Everything about this game feels state-of-the-art in the sense of its modern pixel art style and fluid and quick gameplay. The gameplay is simplistic at first glance, but becomes quite a bit more involved when doing puzzles or fighting bosses. The combat features a standard 3-swing attack for both weapons in the demo, showing off a quick sword style and a slower brute force hammer style. I really appreciate the animations for these weapons. They remind me of Nier Automata, where the weapons phase back to the wielder. Seeing these sleek animations in a 2D game is really pleasing for the eyes, especially those of us who grew up with 2D games. There's more to it than just being nostalgic though, and there are really some engaging gameplay elements going on here, especially with the puzzles. Puzzles within the demo are solved using the range weapons in conjunction with the Aether pads for the player to stand on. On these pads, the player's abilities become amplified. Not only that, some of the mechanisms the player interacts with will change upon shooting at them. I was pleasantly surprised by how fluid and non-tedious these puzzles were. They might not be the most mind-boggling or challenging puzzles ever conceived, but this is a demo after all. As a demo, there are plenty of tutorials on mechanics and systems within the game presented to the player as optional. Even with listening to them, these tutorials are so quick that it can actually be a bit overwhelming at times, with all the systems going on here. It's pretty impressive how much is crammed in here for a seemingly simplistic action RPG. With that said, the game rewards reaction time and the demo is relatively forgiving, so not all these systems need to be utilized. I'm curious to see how deep the skill tree and other mechanics go with the official release. In general, I'm not a huge fan of skill trees, as they are typically more fat to chew than necessary. With a quick glance here though, it doesn't seem like too much or too little. Not too much has been revealed about the story, but overall alludes to that the player character is the chosen one and must save their world. Who would have thought? I'm not sure if this will have a grand narrative that reinvents the wheel, but the gameplay definitely makes me want to see the official release. The dialogue and characters are cute as well, with no voice acting, but beep boops for the speech. This is something that's not really talked about in the industry, but I love this aspect of games in general. When voice acting is incredible, it's definitely incredible, but the minimalist approach with dialogue has always made me happy, and I'm glad this is the direction for the game. I do feel that a lot of indies try to be too ambitious with aspects of their project that don't impact nearly as much as others, and voice acting is definitely one of those lesser important aspects to me. The quick dialogue in between fights and cutscenes between the main character and companions is satisfying without taking too much time. There might be a critique here that there is a bit too much talking. However, this is a demo, so it's a bit early to say, but overall enjoyable pacing. This seems to be remedied later in dungeons as the dialogue takes place on the side of the screen and less cutscenes interrupting gameplay. The setting is awesome with its serene environments mixed with seemingly ancient and futuristic technology, and the music is simple but effective, with some subtle, evocative tones in some of the parts of the demo. The highest praise I have for its gameplay is just how much is crammed in here with its systems, but also how natural it all flows together in battle. The only aspect I had a hard time with were the divine arts, which are special abilities the player can use. The gauge for these arts are filled up at the top left corner of the screen by the player doing damage. I believe the button to use a divine art were on the bumpers, and I just had a hard time remembering what button it was in the middle of fights. I'm sure with a bit more time behind the wheel though, this wouldn't be an issue. All in all, I was pretty enamored by this demo and played it all in one sitting, and I have to say I'm looking forward to the official release of Alabaster Dawn. I'll be following the development of the game from now on, and if you'd like to as well, you can find the developers at the YouTube channel Radical Fish Games. I'll put a link in the description. Thank you for watching and have a great day.